Going live? You're live? Ha! Sweet. I look extra reflective. Wanted to keep the blinds open. Mm, Still going to be reflective, but episode 30 is about to begin. 30 weeks straight. And there's a bit of news. News with the show. So as you can see, I'm here solo. Nah, I'm stopping. I'm going to wait for the announcement about the show. We're a couple minutes in. 2 weeks in a row with no Grif. Yeah, Grif will be back next week. I'll get to that in like 5, 10, 20 minutes, something like that. Wasn't even going to be a show tonight, but I couldn't sleep last night. I was like, yo, there's got to be a show. It's Wednesdays. That's what I do. I come talk. Panda, what's up, man? Hope your raid went well. I was troubleshooting at work. But need some help? Yeah, like I was gonna have some people come in, not at the start. I'm just vibing here for the start of the show. I'll do the whole, what have I been up to stuff, get that out of the way, and then when we start getting into the discussion stuff, the main topic, how was phase 2, the good and the bad, then anyone's welcome to come in. If you haven't joined the Discord, just join my Discord link. Should be in the description, I think, of this. I haven't looked at the description of the live stream in a while. Hello. Yeah, Discord link is in the description. Hop on into the Discord. I'm gonna get through what I've been up to lately in WoW stuff, and then yeah, you're more than welcome, Bearbus, to hop in. Panda, you want to hop in? You're more than welcome to. GT, what's up, man? And we can tell stories of phase 2 and what did you like about phase 2 with Ulduar, stuff outside of Ulduar, and what was bad. There was a mix. There's a good mix, good and bad stuff. Yeah, no rush, dude. No rush. Vacation in Bulgaria. Nice. That's awesome, dude. I want to go on a vacation. I didn't get the invite. What's up? But I've been doing some dungeon solo videos. They've been pretty easy so far. I wasn't expecting that many people to watch. YouTube keeps telling me for the 2 videos, like, your normal viewers aren't interested in these videos. I'm like, well, I'm doing them anyways. So I've done the first 4 of the lowest level dungeons. The most recent being Azul Narub and Old Kingdom. And then the next one is going to be Draktheron Keep and Violet Hold. So I haven't gone in there to try to solo those yet, but that'll be the next video of that series. I did a 15.5-hour gold farming video Saturday. All day Saturday. And I've made about 8,000 gold. So during the stream, I made 6,100 because that was the price of the WoW token at that time. And it's fluctuating, 700, 800 gold, depending on the time of day. But since I finished the stream, I've still been making gold from all the stuff that I got on the auction house. So I'm close to 8K now total. Yeah, I hit it during the stream though. Yeah, so I got the 6,100 gold in that stream. It was pretty wild. I did, I think, 12 or 13 like hour farms, like solid 1 hour farms, and then I would take a break, get to the auction house, post stuff, figure out the next farm, go back out to the next farming spot, rinse repeat for almost 16 hours. And then yesterday I started a hardcore duo tune with Blaze and Bob. I just streamed that on Twitch because I'm like, hardcore, do I want to stream that on YouTube? I don't know. But we made it to level 9, I think. Bob is a warrior, I'm a druid, and we're alliance. So we've done pretty much the whole like night elf starting zone. We still have to go into the little catacombs and stuff. But yeah, like some of the stuff from that gold farm was pretty neat. There's some stuff selling right now that I never thought would make as much gold as it is. I got some Librams from Dire Mall West. Libram of Focus. They were listed on the auction house for like 377 gold. I've been undercutting it to 350, and I think I even went down to 325, and it's not selling. But I got 2 of them, and I was like, yo, that's like, 600, 700 gold right there, but it's not selling, so, I don't know. I think the best farm, though, was Steambolts. Coilfang armaments, and I took my mining druid in there, so I was mining. There's 4 guaranteed mining nodes, like 2 fell iron, 2 adamantite usually, but the adamantite can be corium, so I got 1 corium vein. Corium selling decently, like 18, 20 gold per bar. So those were nice. And then mana tombs at the end also had mining nodes. So that one was good. Trade chat, I could. I always have trade chat turned off, but yeah, I could try trade chat. I thought about doing trade chat for Runecloth because I've still got 50 stacks of Runecloth probably. Yeah, Steam Vaults is nuts. That was a fun farm. I wanted to go back, so I went back at least for 2 hours, maybe 3. That was a long, long time in there. Strathholm also very, very good. Crusader orbs going for 22, 25 gold each. And then large brilliant shards, 15 to 20 gold each. I haven't checked the other enchanting mats, but illusion dust and greater eternal essence could be selling decently right now as well. I need to check on that. And then the rune cloth depended. It was like anywhere from 4 to like 9 gold a stack. All right, yeah. I got a couple more things to touch on here. Then we can move into the discussion. Loot list for our guild is tomorrow, so I'll figure out what kind of restrictions we're going to have when we make our loot lists, and then I'll start to put my personal loot list together, and that's when I'll really like sit down over the weekend and try to figure out what I want to have top prio. Do I want to have the trinket up there? Do I want to have main hand, offhand? Do I want any tier up high on my list? I'm going to be going through all that stuff. And then eventually make a video on that. And last little thing I had here was I've been leveling an alt with Joyous Journeys. I got my little feral to 19. Excuse me. And I've got like all the heirlooms but the ring. I still need to try to, like, I've only done that fishing tournament once where I'm like, okay, it's 2:00 on Saturday. It's time to start fishing. Try to get the shark, turn it in for the heirloom ring. I need to set another reminder for this upcoming Saturday to try to get that heirloom ring. But I've got like the PvP neck, the PvP ring, all the heirlooms. I went and I farmed Gloves of the Fang because it's going to be feral. I'm going to be like solo tanking the dungeons. One other piece I farmed. I farmed like some 5 agility forest leather bracers from Stockades last night. So I'm trying to like completely deck this tune out. I got my heirloom chest enchanted with +4 to stats. I need to get my 2-hand with 25 agility. I'm going to enchant my cloak, my gloves. I don't think you can enchant legs. I need to get my engine, like I need to level engineering on the level 19, get the goggles. Man, my throat is like so dry. Yeah, yeah, that's what I've seen. It's like the first. Let me turn myself down a little bit. First 5-10 minutes, somebody's just already won it. Yeah, but I think I figured out you can just camp by a fishing pool. Like you don't have to be in Dalaran to pick up a quest or anything. You just go to a fishing pool that you can get pygmy fish from, not the pools directly underneath Dalaran. Whatever pools those are, whatever fish that is, you can't get pygmy fish from them. So don't do like I did and fly below Dalaran and it's like, oh, there's fishing pools. You're not going to catch the shark there for the quest. So, yeah, I think that's everything. I just blew through all that stuff really quick. But now that there's a couple people chilling, next week is the last episode of the Grif and Go show. So Grif will be back. We'll say our farewells. I don't know what kind of show we're going to have. Is it going to be 2 hours, 2.5 hours like usual? Are we just going to hop on for 15, 20 minutes, say our farewells? But Grif and Go show episode 31 will be the last one. There's an upside to it that a new show that might not be weekly, it could be every other week, could be one every 3, once a month, should still be on Wednesdays, is in the works. And it should start the 7th will be the last Grif and Go show. 14th should be the first episode of the new show. It's myself and another host, and we plan to have some guests on. It's gonna be, I don't know like the format too well. We talked about it a couple weeks ago, but the plan is to have like a live stream and then have like a cut version, like a 45-minute episode to upload as a video. So like all the outtakes and all that stuff will be removed, and it'll be a nice clean 45-minute episode after a couple days of editing and whatnot. So what I've been up to, covered that. Grif and Go announcement, covered that. Time to get into the good and the bad of phase 2. Let me hop in. I'm not going to have like other cameras for anybody that hops in there. But if you want to come in, give a story, what was good, what was bad, we can get some stuff up here on the screen and go from there. I don't know. I haven't thought of this though. Like when I hop in the channel, do I want to have like my mic open? That might be kind of weird because there's going to be a delay. Watch for the announcement because it doesn't always broadcast. Oh. Yeah, because it was like 2 minutes late the last time. Stream hype. Goldar, what's up, man? Let me see. Is this open mic? No. Yo.
Yo, what's up?
What up?
Hey. So, it's kind of depressing news, but we gotta move on from that,
I
right?
know. Yeah. It's been a weird emotional roller coaster the past couple of days.
Yeah, and I mean it can be, but like that's just phase 2 for you. Like everybody's feeling that way for roller coasters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it might have happened sooner if Ferals hadn't got their little buff there, their little tweak.
It was definitely gonna happen sooner.
Oh man, so what good stuff and bad stuff from phase 2 do you have?
So the good stuff is that they buffed all the bosses and they buffed the gear. that's obviously good because then that makes Ulduar still relevant through next phase. Like as you know, for Feral specifically, we still use the legs as Horde side, but like it still makes a lot of that gear very useful.
Hmm.
And if they didn't do that, then it would have been too easy, in my opinion.
I don't know how I feel about the eye level buff. It was. I know that they had said that they weren't sure that they liked looking back on it, having like the weapons from 10 Man being as strong as they were. But I kind of liked that. I liked going in there for like a beast weapon to tide me over till I got a 25-man weapon.
Well, yes, the weapons is definitely one of the big points that they did mess up a little bit on, but in my opinion, they should have just made them 239 instead of the 245 because then that still puts them on par almost with the normal weapons that come from World War 25.
Yeah, I could see that. Like a little 6 eye level bump.
Yeah, it would still be what they wanted for the eye level bumps for 10 man, but it wouldn't put those level weapons too high.
So as a feral, I think a lot of your items came from 10 Man that are your bis. Did you like that, or was that like a bad thing?
It wasn't a lot of the items. It was technically only three items that came
Mm.
from 10 man that were bis. Actually, yeah, three. Three that are full bis, but there's four if you go for the less contested bis. The three items were the XT bracers, the Yogg belt, and the Thorum trinket.
Mm.
I still saw those as being better before they did the item level buff because I did a lot of research and gearing ahead of time when they released 80 upgrades originally, and those items were still on my list until you got the 252 items, obviously. But the belt was just too good to pass up.
Hmm. I'm trying to think. I guess I don't know if Boomies really had like a bis, but the ring from Algalon. That was our only real bis item from 10 Man. And that took me forever to get. I finally got it like 2 weeks ago. Like right after they announced the Ethereal Essence vendor and everything, I was like, oh, I hope I don't have to do too many new heroic plus dungeons to get this ring.
Yeah, I actually just realized now that you mentioned the ring that the 10 man Agi ring from Algalon is Bis too, so that's
Mm.
another thing to add to our list, but I still haven't even gotten that. It's, I've never seen it.
I I'm always only looking out for that Nebula band, so I don't even know if I've seen any.
Loop of the Ad, not Loop of the Agile, but it's the hit ring from Algalon that
Mm.
I out of all the times that I've downed it since like week 2 or 3, like still not seen it.
Hmm. How many tunes are you raiding on right now? Just the one, or?
So right now I'm rating on my Feral Druid and Holy Pally slash Ret slash Prot, whatever pretty much they need me for, if I'm needed on that Paladin. But I have been picking up on my second Druid a little bit here and there. It's not as geared as I want it to be, but it's geared enough to go into TOGC Heroic and still be able to get really good upgrades that way. That was my whole plan in the first place, is just get it geared enough to go into those and gear up from there, because a lot of the gear you get from TOGC is just better.
Any bad things about Phase Two? Like what was the thing that you were like, man, this is kind of meh.
The fact that you could solo tank everything made it
Mm.
kind of meh, because back in the day that wasn't that big of a thing this early. Because you got to think there was a lot of guilds that were doing it to tanking, but there wasn't very many guilds that were doing solo tanks until like 2 months in. We were doing solo tanks like 4 weeks in. So they could have upped something else to allow the damage to actually be handled better, in my opinion.
Mm. I know at least in 10 Man TOGC for Phase 3 on the PTR, we did solo tank for that. 25 man though, I don't know if I think
25 men. So I've tested a lot of it. I've done like 6 or 7 raids in there. You can solo tank comfortably every boss but twins. Um,
I know a noob. It looked like at least three, but maybe that can get
the
down to
noob is
two.
definitely can be put down to 2, but you really need to like have some sort of kick for them or stun.
Mm,
But I don't even know if they're stunnable. That's the thing. I don't think they are stunnable. I know they are undead so that you can get the pally stun out, so that might be part of
mm.
their thing, but you have to kill them so quick in order to duo tank that I don't see it being possible until we start seeing tanks get a lot of gear from TOGC.
Oh yeah.
We've tried it. We've definitely tried it, and it is possible with massive amounts of cooldowns every time, but you have to one phase it in order to do that properly.
Mm, mm, mm. What about stuff outside of Raid? Was there enough content in Phase 2 with Ulduar? Because we got. Did we get a new. I mean, we got a new VOA boss. We got the Heroic Plus dungeons. Did we get a new battle? We got Strand of the
No,
Ancients, right?
so
Or that came
Strand of
out
the
Phase
Ancients
1.
was phase one. That was phase one.
Okay, okay.
So we got no new battlegrounds. We got the Heroic Plus that only really lasted a couple of weeks because once people started getting badges from the raids, like it just died. Everything
Yeah.
just kind of died.
It was like you got your helm, your chest from the emblems, and then it was like, okay, maybe a couple extra emblems for the crafted gear. And then, yeah, that was it.
Well, I went above and beyond. I bought all my PvP pieces that I didn't have already. I bought my helm and chest for 2 specs. And I think I bought a temporary item from there just to hold me over until I think it was the legs that just to hold me over until I got pieces.
Hmm. I know it took me until maybe it's been a month since I started doing the tournament dailies. And I finally like got through all 5 factions and I finished all that stuff. And I guess there's new stuff coming in phase 3, but I didn't really like I didn't like it. I did it, but I didn't really care
There
for it.
there's a few more quests that they add in when the tournament grounds is completed, but all it gives you is more of those currency tokens, and that's it. Which, if you have a completionist, then you need, I think it's like 290 tokens just to buy the mounts, the 2 mounts, and the pets from there. But after that, there's nothing else to buy.
Yeah, I only did a couple of those other dailies to get those things, and I'm like, I'm tired of it.
I haven't been doing them for about 2 weeks now, just because I have like almost 200, and you get them from doing the heroic anyways. And I'm going to be doing a couple of tours when phase 3 releases. So it's going to be interesting on how long those days actually last. They are good gold because I think I got about 200 to 300 gold in like 20 minutes once. So it's not bad gold. It's just not great.
I know when I was doing that gold farm Saturday, everybody was like, "Have you done the dailies?" And they're like, "That's an easy 600-700 gold an hour." And I was like, maybe if you've done it a couple times, if you've done those dailies like solid back to back for a week, and you got your route down and everything." But I was like, yeah, 20 gold a quest, I can maybe do 6 in an hour. Like, I'm pretty slow at questing.
Yeah, and especially as a boomy, it's kind of difficult to do what Sparrows can do because I can solo all of those, including the group quest they have for it, which is the Frostwing. And I always have people just randomly invite me because I'm sitting there soloing it by myself, and I have zero issue with it.
Oh, I can solo it. It gets a little sketchy. When the ads come out, it's like, okay, I'm taking damage now.
Zero sketch for Feral Druid. Zero. Like you just go bear, it's done. Over. Just play a Feral.
At least that mob like respawns pretty instantly because it can get
Yeah,
contested out there.
it's got about a 20 to 30-second spawn timer depending on what realm you're on and depending on how many people are on your lair, but it's got a pretty fast spawn time. I do say so.
Did you go back to Nax at all, like on your main tune? Did Nax hold up at all for you or no?
So when the phase first started, I did go back and do EOE and OS just so I could get the phase bis items. Never saw them. I did it for about a month and just kind of gave up because I got the pieces that I needed anyways. So I just it didn't really hold up as far as like gearing, but I'll still go back to do achievements because I am going for the achievement stuff. Other than that, not really. Like I had most of the good stuff from Nax in the first place. It was just too easy.
I did go back. It's probably been a month and a half, if not 2 months ago. I went back with Blaze and Bob, and we did like an 8-man Nax and got that achievement. That was pretty fun. So like, I wouldn't mind going back and doing the achievements, but I don't think we even really went back to Nax that much because our old war progression was taking up both of our raid nights. So it's like we didn't really schedule any Nax. I don't think.
We didn't go back to Nax either as a guild, just because like it was kind of pointless for the first couple of weeks until we downed Agalon, which I think was week 3 or 4 that we downed it on 25. So we didn't end up going back to Nax because there wasn't really anything that anybody needed as far as a guild goes. I went back on my alt just because like I could because they needed gear just to get into Ulduar stuff.
We did go back the past 2 weeks and did Sarth 3 Drakes for the mount for one, so people can get their mount if they didn't win the rollback in phase one, and for like illustration of the Dragon Soul slash Pennant Cloak. I don't know if there's any melee items from there that are still kind of decent, but
So as far as melee items, like they get a so there's Obsidian Great Helm for plate DPS that's still really good. It's not as good as the 252 one, but you could also use the 232 tier tokens as a replacement because those are all really good as well. So those items didn't really hold up for physical as much as what they should have. Because if you think if they didn't buff it, then those items would still be worthwhile to go back and get because they would be better than the tier tokens that you'd be getting until you got your full 4 piece or whatever.
true, yeah. Mm, let's see. Are you planning on doing the new 40-man dungeon in phase 3? What is it called? Isle of Conquest?
The 40-man battleground, yes, because I'm running out of achievements to get in PvE situations. So I just have to go after the PvP ones, which one of those is get 100 wins in Isle of the Conquest.
Mm.
So that one's going to be quite a while.
Excuse me. Yeah, I did the PTR with the devs. I was at work, so I didn't really get to try too hard, but Horde got stomped both times. I think there was only two battlegrounds, and yeah, Horde got rolled over. So if we're losing as Horde, then I might be like, eh.
Well, so the thing is that Horde only wins if you have good communication in most battlegrounds and good players. A lot of the players that are good at PvP roll Alliance because it's easier. It's more difficult for Horde to win a battleground. That way, it makes it more of a of a good win for Horde if they actually do win. So you kind of have to do pretty well. I was planning on doing a lot of pre-mades for it, but you can only take up to, I think it's 10 into a pre-made.
Mm.
So it kind of makes it a little bit more difficult. And you kind of can put that in the bad things of what they've done before, but that was like TBC.
Mm. Mm. And then we get a new dungeon. I didn't do the new dungeon on the PTR. Trial of the Champion.
The dungeon's a joke.
Yeah,
It's always been a joke, especially the first fight in it is just kind of a joke.
I think I remember doing that dungeon, but I'd have to see it all again. I think I remember seeing like the Dark Knight or the Black Knight, whatever it's called, like flying around and then landing inside the arena. But that's
Yeah,
about it. That's all I
that's
remember.
the final boss of the dungeon. It's the Black Knight.
Uh, you know,
But I do have to say the heroic plus plus or the heroic, what is it, beta dungeon affixes so much better than the alpha. So much better. It actually makes it more fun to do the heroics than it did in the previous phase.
I'm trying to think if I even got in one. I don't think I did, but I watched all of Scotty's videos covering them, and it looked pretty fun. Like the double mechanics instead of just the one bad mechanic that most of them had. I'm
Well,
still
they changed the bad mechanic on a lot of them. On a lot of them, they
oh like
either
they made it a little better. Yeah.
they made it better because, like, for example, the Anub dungeons, you do more damage to the web wraps, so you break them out faster. The debuff that you got from the halls dungeons, those got taken. I think the damage taken was removed from it, and you just got the increased damage. Plus, what I've seen for it, because I didn't actually get into any of the halls dungeons, is that you basically have unlimited mana, and you have that stack just continuously rolling. So you're doing like ridiculous amounts of damage. It made it fun, and they increased the health of it so it doesn't feel like you're just flying straight through it.
Yeah, it sounded like it was gonna be like a speed running type feel to it, where it's just nonstop. You go in and blow through it, and I like that.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know if you've watched Subtle's video on it. He just like was doing 250k as a prop paladin.
That dude's insane.
Yeah, I was just like, what are you wearing? Like all your threat gear? He's like, practically. I'm like, oh, that's just insane. Because he's just got all that defense and mitigation to even do that. So it's just like they don't really hit that hard until you face a boss, and even the bosses don't really hit as hard as 25-man bosses because they're not supposed to. I think it'll be a lot easier to get in those heroic plus plus as a lower geared character than it was to get into the alphas
Hmm.
because I don't think there will be as high of a skill cap that people need or gear cap that people need just because of how easy they are now.
I mean, I can add this to the bad list. One bad thing about the first versions was their LFG tool. There was no real way to like list specifically for heroic or heroic plus.
Yeah, that's one of the bad things. Like there's no specific way to do that. They should just put in RFD, honestly.
Yeah.
Cause like what's the problem with RFD now? Like we don't already have enough people to want to run dungeons. Like if you log in even right after work, there's some people not even looking for specific dungeons, so it makes it harder to do that. It makes it harder to do any of the dungeons. And if you do RFD, like people are going to continuously queue for it because they're getting those extra emblems.
Hmm. But I did see on the PTR they're changing the LFG tool. I didn't try it out personally, but it looked like you should be able to pick. Do you want the normal dungeon, heroic, heroic plus, or heroic plus plus?
That might make it a little bit more easier of a tool to use, which can make it a little bit more difficult to get into specific heroic plus plus. Like some people only need to do specific ones. That's just how the gearing goes for those people. And I don't see everybody wanting to do every single one of them unless they're doing a world tour, which people will only do world tours for maybe the first week or two. And then after that, it dies again. Like every phase, it's going to be like this. It's going to start up really good with the heroics again. Then a couple weeks, 2, 3 weeks in, it's going to die.
Yeah, I plan on doing the at least the daily every day on at least 2 tunes, maybe three. I don't know if I want to bump it up to three, but yeah, after I
Well,
get
the
the
daily's not going to be that much time. Honestly, you could
yeah,
probably get like 3 to 4 done in about 2, 3 hours, maybe, depending on how much luck you have in groups or if you're taking a full guild group. Like, as long as people are swapping to the right roles and everything, you can get everything done with a full guild group in about an hour and a half with 4 characters.
I might even volunteer to heal one or two of these things. That might be something neat for me to try out.
There
Tanking
is
though, I won't. Like no.
there there isn't enough tanks and there isn't enough healers queuing for this stuff to make this worthwhile for other people because everybody just wants to go pew pew.
Skip as many bosses as they can.
Yep, exactly. I had to go back and do all of the alpha achievements because people skipped bosses when I first did it. So I went back and did all of those. And I said, I'm only going to do it if it's a full run, kill every single boss.
Mm,
That way I can get my achievement and get this done and over with. So I don't have to worry about next phase.
I think they said something about that, like that achievement's going to be kind of important for something in the future. Like having done all of the first defense protocol alpha dungeons on heroic and all the beta dungeons.
I think that in my opinion, they're probably just going to make it a title to have
Oh
all of
yeah.
those achievements done. It's not going to be what we expect. And I think a lot of people are expecting, like a mount or something, but I just think it's going to be a title. I don't think it's going to be anything bigger than that because they don't want to spend more time and money on something that they're not making a lot of money off of, but since they added in the WoW token, they might add an amount.
That makes me want to go back and finish getting the ones that I didn't get the achievement for because I think I did all of them, but yeah, like at that time, like a lot of people were skipping some of the bosses, so I didn't get all the achievements.
Right. So you're going to want to go back and do those because if my thoughts are correct, then it's probably going to be a mount or a title. Most likely a title because it's never what we expect. And the title's going to be pretty prestigious for some people that actually do it because not a lot of people are going to want to do those old ones anymore. So this is the phase to get done all your alpha. Otherwise, you're going to be left behind to get that title, and nobody's going to want to go back and do it. Because why do the old ones when you can do the new ones and get newer badges?
I wasn't expecting the new ones to drop both Nax and Oldor loot, but it made sense after I heard about it. But at first, it caught me off guard. I was like, "Whoa, like that's some insane loot for alts to get there."
Right. So all they're really adding is one extra piece to each boss. And it allows you to gear up alts, and that brings me back to you'll have an easier time as a lower geared alt or any lower geared character to get into those betas because of how easy they are and how much gear they're going to give.
I heard their thought process behind what eye level gear they were trying to tune those around, and it was 213. So you should be able to get near 213 pretty easily. Like with the just buying BOEs really. Or doing PvP, getting some PvP gear. Like
So Scotty made a video and I watched it, and what he's going to do, what he would do if he was to level a brand new alt, got it to 80, and you can buy pretty much every single piece of gear from the auction house that's BOE and get up to about 206, 207.
hmm.
Some classes have an easier time to get up to 210, but it's kind of really easy to get up that high, especially with the new patterns that are coming out next phase that are going to be really good for a lot of people. And it's going to be extremely good for a new alt or any new character that's coming into the game.
I know our bracers are really good for us. And I think the other piece is chest. So like for Boomy, the chest is kind of like we're not really going to use that cuz it's tier chest for tier 8 and 9. But the bracers are looking really solid for us.
The bracers are really good for ferals as an upgrade, as a temporary upgrade. They're not BIS, but they're second best in slots for Horde, in my opinion, depending on, your other stats like hit and your expertise. Like those are your two major stats. Because like all the gear that you would wear as a feral, you're gonna get naturally from your major stats like agi, your stamina, your attack power, armor pen. Those are just gonna come naturally, but you kind of want to watch out a little bit for your hit and expertise, even though a lot of ferals say that they're kind of mess stats. I still think they're kind of important because they can add DPS. Or you could just hit really hard and miss a couple of times.
Goldar, what's up, man? Hello. There you are. What's your bad thing?
WoW token.
Oh gosh.
The WoW token's not a bad thing. In my opinion, it's not a bad thing. It's neither a good nor bad thing. It just
Well,
regulates the market a little bit more, which is what they've always tried to do with the WoW token. Since they've added it, they've always tried to regulate the market for items on how much they should be worth and just make gold a little bit more accessible.
My biggest kind of like concern with it, I guess, more than anything, is the what it actually does for the already existing community of, illicit RMT and things like that. Before, if you had an account that you had and you were botting with it and you're generating all this gold, in order to continue to operate that, there was a fixed cost associated with it, right? You had to get game time somewhere, right? So generally, they were getting it pretty cheap. They were getting it through, discounted currencies, places where the currencies are a lot more devalued and they can get it for cheap, right? They're not paying 15 USD for a month, right? They're probably getting it for the equivalent of like 3 or 4. But now they get it for free.
Essentially just by doing what they've already been doing, yes. But
Exactly.
it'll be a lot easier to catch bots. Just because there will be more people running around to try and buy that game time if they don't have the money to do it. Like there's still going to be some people that aren't botting that are going to
Oh,
find
for
these
sure.
bots. Like I turn in probably about 5 to 6 bots a week, and I get a couple of messages back on it. But the WoW token can be neither good nor bad because it's kind of an in between of what Blizzard's trying to do to interface that community.
so I was looking yesterday, I think it was yesterday, for the normal bot places. I did a slash who like Botanica, uh, even Karazhan. Karazhan's probably legit players, but like the all the TBC hotspots where bots usually are, and I really didn't see any. And usually I do. Like last week, I think I checked and I still saw a couple, but yesterday I didn't see any.
Um, there's a lot more in Bot and the Hellfire Peninsula dungeons. than in Karazhan, in my opinion, because yeah, a lot of the Karazhan people are doing it legitimately, but there are quite a few paladins specifically that you can just run in there and just get dunked on.
Yeah,
But
like I tried like Tempest Keep, Shattered Halls, Mana Tombs. There was like nobody in them. I was like, maybe since Blizzard's gotten all this feedback and flack about bots, maybe they actually are gonna be like, well, now look at us. We banned 500,000. We banned 500,000 bots. That's gonna be their next blue post. I think they're gonna.
they already said that in their last blue post, but they already did say as well that they are not going to post that consistently because it's so much information that a lot of people just don't care about.
I genuinely hope that they get a lot better at their enforcement of that, because honestly, that is the biggest problem, and that's where most of the issues that kind of arise from the WoW token come from. If it was just a WoW token and players could, exchange gold for game time for the people who wanted to, get a little more gold by giving Blizzard some money and then they get a little bit of gold out of it, sure, whatever, right? But I feel like the biggest problem is just that there's so much illicit gold, and then the largest user of the WoW token is just going to be those people that are farming that illicit gold to, essentially run a profit, right? Which devalues the currency that all the rest of us have in the game, right? Which makes just everything a little more expensive.
Like I thought that our GDKP on Saturday was gonna be like, I didn't know what to expect, but I thought that people were gonna be spending a lot more gold, and it was just a normal payout. And I was like, oh, okay.
It takes time.
It's not going to change this phase's GTKP prices. It won't, because this phase is almost over, and people already know that. It's going to change next phase's prices for sure, and people will be spending more next phase because a lot of that gear from next phase stays relevant throughout the entirety of ICC.
Hmm.
I could definitely see that. Like, absolutely, I can see that happening.
I'm just glad that I've already pretty much paid for my epic weapon, or my
Hell yeah.
like I don't have to worry about Shadowmourne price.
On that topic, what how close are you? Is it 24 that you're on go
Yeah,
time?
I've got 24. So if we get a run like we did last night on next Saturday, then I might have it.
Dude, that was a insane like drop rate for shards. We've never seen that many shards in a run.
How many
Like, we
total
got
did
2
we
off
get?
Hodir, we got 1 off almost every single boss.
Was it a total of 7 or 8? Like how many?
I think it might be 9, but let me double check.
9?
I think 9's the max you can get, isn't it?
No, because we didn't get
Based off of
one.
RNG numbers.
We didn't get one from a couple bosses, like couple hard modes.
Then we
Right.
got 2 from Hodir.
So technically you could get up to 14
Ooh,
every
wow.
week, but that's really good RNG. Like the factor that goes into it, I think the math was 9 was the best week you could ever get based off of RNG factors. This is just the math I did way back in the day, though.
Did you already raid your 25 man Bearbus for this week?
No, I'm taking a couple weeks off
Oh, okay.
just because I've got some personal stuff going on in life, but it's not too big that I can't join you guys and help out.
Nice. Did you are you keeping tabs on your guild still? Has your guild posted anything in their Discord like, "Hey, we got a load of fragments last night"? Cuz I'm wondering if it wasn't just us. Like if Blizzard just shadow buffed the fragment drop rate.
No shadow buffs from my guild, so I don't think that they shadow buffed it at all. Because if they would have, you would hear a lot more people on the forums. I've been keeping an eye on forums while I've been out doing stuff, so like there's not been that much. It's just really good RNG.
We needed that too because we've had some weeks where we got like just the one from Yogg. So we finally got it
Yeah.
to balance out.
We had, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks in a row where we got 1 or 2. It
Mhm.
was just brutal. Absolutely brutal.
A lot of people say that whoever starts the raid and enters the raid first sets the raid loot, but I don't really believe that as much. I've come to realize that it is more of a thing this phase, because in my 10 man that I've used to run every week, we got a runestone every single week, and we got the Yogg belt. No, it was Caress like 4 weeks in a row. Because I started the group, I entered first, and that's just the loot we got. And I'm just like, this can't be based off of RNG if I'm getting the same loot every week.
So that's one of the things that's been thrown around forever. And honestly, like I know Blizzard is really tight-lipped about it, and I don't even think I've ever seen anything out of like private servers really talk about exactly how the back end of loot is done. But I would love to know because in just computer science in general, like true random generation is almost impossible, right? That's generally why they call it pseudo random number generation and not just random number generation, because there's always a pattern to it in some aspect when you're dealing with computer science. So it's like they have to be pulling something from somewhere to kind of augment it, most likely. And I wonder what that is. Is it based on the character who seeds it? Is it based on the guild? Is it based on like the time you enter the raid, or like the day of the week, or like what do they pull from? Because they've got to have something in there that's different every time, right?
Right. In my opinion, though, it was, if you remember Rag back in Vanilla Classic, there was a lot of posts about people not being knocked back on Rag, and it had to do with their character ID. And so I think the character ID might have a little play in the loot systems and could mean that raids are getting specific loot because of that character's ID, because of the character that moves in first. Could be a mixture of both of those. Because, like you said, they're not real RNG. It's just the information that's given through the computer system.
I know every time one of our warlocks, Crispy, is in our 10-man raid, we have a fusion blade drop. That's the only like loot thing that I've like picked up on. But yeah, I don't know if I know the whole seeding the raid thing has been a thing, a term for every expansion so far in Classic.
It's been a thing since Kata.
The Warglaives as well. Then the people see those. And also, hello.
Oh yeah, what's up, Panda?
Yeah.
Hey, beta.
Hello.
The seeding was definitely a thing throughout the entire classic, and I think it actually became a thing in Kata originally. It might have been a thing in Wrath, but I don't remember it in Wrath.
Our rogue back in TBC was so superstitious about who seeded the raid, what gear they were wearing when they seeded it, because we never saw a warglaive. And he was like, every week he would come back with something else. Oh, I need the lucky pocket watch in my bag, and I need to be wearing this helmet when I seed the raid. Like, nobody go in first.
There was a time in Sunwell Plateau where we got like 5 or 6 of the bows, all because the same person entered the raid.
Jeez.
And yeah. So I definitely think that seeding could be a thing, but I think it's more character based than account based of whoever goes in the raid first or whoever starts it. It could be either or of those things.
What if it's
Explain it. Oh, sorry.
what if it's time based? Like,
I don't think it's time based
Mhm.
because I've gone at different times and gotten the same loot.
well, Panda, throw in
Oh.
a good thing about phase 2. Good. We need some positivity.
Mine is a nightmare. I'm not the person that asked this. I joined a better guild and cleared all the hard modes. That was pretty fun, and I really like
Clearing
alcohol.
hard modes. That's a good thing. Hard modes.
They actually made the hard modes the original difficulty, which was really nice. Like
I wouldn't.
the Hodir one was changed back to 2 minutes, and when it was 3 minutes after a week or 2 weeks after Ulduar's original release.
The hard modes have kind of caused problems. The way they're set up, they should have. Well, not
For more casual guilds, yes, it caused a lot of problems. I've played in both a casual and a semi-hardcore guild that has cleared all hard modes, mostly because I came in with a lot of knowledge that helped the casual guild
Mhm.
progress a lot. So it's more of on the players than it is on the entire guild as a whole. Because if you look back to Nax, you could carry half of the Nax round with like 5 to 6 really geared players. That's it. That's all you really needed for Nax. It puts more responsibility on each player for the hard modes, and that's exactly how it's going to be for TOGC as well. To get your immortal title for TOGC, it's going to rely on that same exact thing.
Uh, yeah, it's not the difficulty where you're progressing through them. Mine is more the fatigue it's causing because I'm a GM of a guild and part of Goalmag, and all I see in the leadership is just player fatigue. They're losing players, and there's a lot of better guilds that are having to do collaborations because the hard mode players have got their stuff. They then just don't want to play because it's just too time consuming, or they can't
It's
find the fun in it anymore.
yeah, it's because it's dragged on for too long.
Yeah.
It was the same way back in original Wrath where this phase was too long. And it's really boring doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different results.
So,
A famous person said that once.
how long should this phase have been? Because this week is lockout number 20.
It should have been about 18 weeks max. It
Mhm.
should have been 18 weeks max.
How do you feel about 18, Panda?
I'm trying to work out if you only did normal modes, how long would it take you to farm a Valnir? Would that be 14 to 18? So it would be about right.
It
Like
would,
if you only
yeah,
did
it
normal
would
modes,
still get
Oh.
you at least one Valonir.
yeah, which would be perfect for a more casual guild because my casual guild, we got one after week 16 or something. So yeah,
Mhm.
which we were very happy about. So yeah, a bit shorter would have been better.
We just finished our second one from our main raid, but we have 3 in the guild. So, like, we just got our third one done. So, our healers are pretty decked. The next one getting fragments is our priest. So they'll have one eventually, but we got 2 holy pallies and the resto druid.
We would have had almost 3 by now. Well, actually, almost 4 by now. But people quit. It's all
Yeah,
because of people quit.
we had 4 and it went to 1. 3 of them quit in the same week because of the WoW token.
Oh, you had people actually quit over the token.
Yeah, they're like I just can't, whatever to this, but they're also the Valnir players, which is like okay, cool,
Huh.
great, awesome. But yeah,
And you started off, Panda, with like doing only normal modes, and now you've passed me in gear score after only doing hard modes for like the last month. How did
yeah,
that
but I'm the
happen?
only druid in that guild, top 13 on server. uh, uh, and for some reason they accepted me, even though I had only done normal prior to that. They also asked for Go for a reference, which they never went to for, that I'm aware of.
No, they didn't.
It's kind of a shame. It would have been funny. Yeah, I got very lucky. The guild I'm running with, because they just don't care anymore because they've lost so many Valeniers, they just do soft reserve
Hmm.
because they don't want to do look kinds because they can't guarantee those players. If that makes sense. So
Hmm.
they switched loot system, which helped me.
Table was he's gonna bring up, like, tomorrow's our loot list meeting. He's gonna bring up the idea for our guild to do splits. Have either of you done splits before in a guild?
Yes.
Does it work? Like, how did you guys do it? Was it like you had your first 3-4 weeks of the phase as like all mains so you could get through progression? Did it start off as a split for the first couple of weeks and you progressed as splits?
I'll let Panda go first because mine's a little long.
Oh, mine's is pretty simple. When I joined that guild, they asked for, did you have a secondary character? And they continue splits to complete Valeniers. Whenever the Valeniers completed, they go back into the main raid. So that's basically how they did it. So that's why they had 4. It was only for Valeniers. It was for not really gearing in anyone in particular.
Mine was we did splits in Nax. It was relatively easy, but we only did 1 week of mains as our very first week. Um, we told everybody by the next lockout you have to have a second character. A lot of us had that second character by that second week. So it was relatively simple to fill out the second raid because we had a larger roster at the time. But then as Ulduar came out, we kind of stopped with that because of how boring it is. We did it for a couple weeks in Ulduar, but just didn't really continue from there. Loot system was relatively easy. We geared out the main tunes in each raid before trying to gear out alts, and we kind of tried to spread out the people who needed specific gear as best as possible between the two groups. So it made it a lot easier for looting, and it made it a lot less loot drama because if you weren't getting gear in one raid on your alt, that was just because you were getting gear on your main in another raid. We're going to be going back to splits for next phase just because of how quick we're going to be doing it. We might end up doing it both of their splits in one night in TOGC and then going back to Ulduar on our second night and doing Ulduar on like whichever characters people wanted to bring, because as long as our tanks and our healers are set, it really doesn't matter. We could do hard modes for it, but it's kind of the same RNG as far as shard factors on a lot of the bosses. So it's just a matter of how long do we want to take to build another Valenier, because we're going to need to build another 2 to 3 after we finish our current one.
So for TOGC splits, I feel like a noob is gonna be rough, at least for our guild. And like having it be a split raid where there's some ults mixed in there too is just gonna make a noob a lot harder. So like I was thinking when Table brought it up earlier today that a split raid for TOGC for a 50-50 clear didn't seem like a great idea, but your guild might be more comfortable with doing like the hard modes, week 1, week 2, full clear, no wipes.
Right. I don't think we're going to be getting the full clear no wipes for the first couple weeks. As far as like throwing in alts into the mix, you kind of have to give a good balance between the two. And that's the whole reason of going back to Ulduar, is to gear up some of those alts to make it a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm. One good thing was the extra tier tokens, because if you get 45 to 49 attempts left, then you get the 2 extra tier tokens. So that's where I can see the splits being good, but I think for our guild it would limit our 272 cloak loot.
It's always going to limit that loot. Always will. Always has. Because nobody's perfect. And a lot of people don't realize that, is that you're not going to have a perfect run every single time unless you have the best players that are always focusing on mechanics. And that's all that to get the 50-50 cloak is to focus on those mechanics. You can still do it with alts, even if they're less geared. You just have to have the people that want to focus on the mechanics more than they want to do DPS. It doesn't matter about parses. It matters on, did anyone die? Did you wipe? That's what matters more to get those 272 cloaks.
I mean, what do you think would be more important? Having a split run that you almost know you're not going to get the 50-50 clear, so you're not getting that cloak, but both groups will make the 45 to 49 attempt and get the extra tier tokens for people. Is that the better thing? Yeah.
Yes, because even though they're adding an extra token of Crusade into the loot systems, they're adding those into both 10 and 25. No, they were just doing it to 25. They added more emblems. It's even for the 245 gear sets, it's still going to take most people 4 to 6 weeks to build their entire 245 tier set. And if you're doing the splits, you could get lucky and give one person an entire set every week. If you're doing the splits correctly, you're getting two people every week. So then it puts you down to what, 13.5 weeks, 14 weeks to get 25 people enough gear to go into ICC and just absolutely smash it.
Hmm. Well, Panda, what's a bad thing about Phase 2? Because I asked you for a good thing, and you were like, I don't really know. But it sounds like you have a couple bad things about Phase 2.
I don't know. Well, one of the guys I work with always says that he's absolutely average. That's kind of me in Auto. I really like the raid, but I'm kind of like the hard modes, but I dislike the hard modes based on what I'm playing.
Hmm.
Um,
Any
I
specific
don't know.
thing about the hard modes?
Algalon despawning, I don't particularly like, which
Oh, like the hour timer?
the art timer and also him glitching out because he glitched out twice there, like 20 minutes ago for me, so he didn't get the kill. He just never respawned, even though there's 30 minutes left.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Huh.
Algalon, the timer's not great. I understand it, but it stops people actually learning the fight as well. Because in my casual guild, we've never actually killed Algalon because of that hour timer. Even if it was extended a little bit, say 2 hours, that would be fine to me.
I think that in TOGC originally they got rid of the timer.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
that might be a concern that's going away next phase. But obviously for this phase, yeah, the Algalon timer can be quite difficult to push past. Like it took us 2 weeks of 10 man to finally down it, but we brought in 3 paladins for it on 10 man.
It felt good to get it down on 10 man because we got it in 10 man first, too. And I think we've got 11 out of the 20 lockouts where we've downed Algalon. So, like last week, or was it last week? It would have been 50%. 9 out of 19. At some point, we were around 50%. We're still around 50% for Algalon kills. But that's 9 weeks of Algalon loot that we didn't get because it was just that rough for us for the timer.
Yeah, I have about a 20% kill rate, but then again, I started later. But within the guild I'm in, it's a 50-50 if it goes down or not.
Well, Panda, how do you feel about the wipe attempt, like the wipe counter in phase 3, the 50-50?
Oh, I like it. I'm completely fine with it. It
Mm.
gives a goal to try and do it, and as Bear said, it's people doing mechanics over just trying to parse or DPS, which is a big problem in most guilds, that people try and focus the DPS instead of staying alive.
Hmm.
Um,
Are you a fan of it, Bearbus? The 50-50, like the encounter attempt thing? Like way better system than the 1 hour Algalon timer?
It's kind of a better system, but it's kind of not at the same time. Just because you lock in the best item behind something that most people won't ever see. Because it never goes away. The 50-50 timer is always there. And people are going to want to prog on hard mode as much as they possibly can. But once you get to that last attempt, there's like almost no choice not to swap to normal and just go for the normal gear, because then you're at least still getting loot that people can still use and get some good time in to prog. So it kind of gets rid of the timer, the hard timer in general.
Mm. And then there's like the undying version where you get a mount, I think, right?
It
If nobody
it
dies, nobody wipes.
yes, it's the immortal version, and it comes with a title and a
Immortal.
mount
Yeah.
that everybody gets.
See, I think we did the 10 man one, and only one mount drop, so 25 everybody gets the mount, but 10 minutes only one.
Correct.
Yeah, the at least the 10 man version of the mount, it was a wolf. It didn't really stand out that much. It was kind of cool, but it was like, eh. Is the
No memorized
25? Yeah, it's no Mims head. Yeah, is the 25 mount cool? I didn't look it up.
It's also meh.
Hmm.
It's not great, but it's still there to try and get people to do it because it comes with points as well. So it's achievable. It's just a matter of actually people, again, knowing mechanics and doing their job correctly.
Let me put in the good or bad column the heroic plus thing. I didn't choose a side yet. Do we all agree that it was? I mean, it kind of probably lands in the middle, but is anybody feeling a certain way, like really good, really bad?
It's a good idea. It worked in retail quite well. The mythic systems. Um, Putting prior tier gear in it also I think is good for those like 10 man only guilds that actually are still missing pieces. Um, and it allows alts to be geared up a lot more efficiently, which is a lot better in my opinion.
Wrath has always been the most alt friendly expansion. So the fact that they did add the Titan Root dungeons and add the 10-man gear to that made the 10-man gear and the 25-man gear more accessible. This time with keeping the hard mode loot to the hard mode bosses could have been a detrimental figure for them as far as like the 25-man hard mode items go, but it's still going to be quite difficult to do all those 25-man hard modes if you've never really done them on 25.
Yeah, that part I don't understand, not putting the 25 man hard mode load in the 10 man and keeping the fragments in the 25 man only, because it just kind of makes 10 man pointless at the moment. Because you can get the 10 man gear and you can get the 10 man hard mode gear after a while when you do the heroics.
Right, it does make the 10-man gear almost irrelevant, but it's still they didn't want to move the shards over to 10-man because of the system of loot would make it a lot easier just to do 10-man and get as many shards as possible, then go straight into 25 and get more. They didn't want to add in too many legendaries at once.
Oh yeah, I get the fragments. I'm
Excuse
completely
me.
fine at just staying in 25. Like,
They didn't like so they put a blue post out saying that fragments are only going to be from 25, but then in that community council video, that dev was like, "Oh, we haven't made a decision yet." So we still could possibly see fragments in 10 men.
that community council meeting was basically how to say maybe, neither yes nor no at all, every
He,
fight.
he until
It's
they
what
put an actual blue post out, I'm not gonna believe a word that's said.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's also a dev, not a PR person,
true.
Yeah.
so they're not trained to do it.
Here we go. Since we're talking about Blizzard and their communication, was Blizzard's communication throughout Phase 2, everything involved, good or bad? Think I'd know where it's going, but
It's
Horrible.
perfection on how not to do it, because I work in a company like that, and it's all about communications. You don't tell somebody something, it's pretty bad because they always expect the worst.
You've got millions of players playing, and you don't communicate for weeks. That looks really bad on your company as a whole. Like really bad.
Oh, and this brings me right into this is a good one because Barabbas was part of this, experienced this firsthand. Are the changes like the little tweaks that they're making to classes because they dropped the paladin tweak, they dropped the feral druid tweak. Are those good things? Should they have left it alone? What do you think, Barabbas?
The Ret Paladin thing was definitely a change that they should have made, but I think they should have done it differently. Like they've said before, they're never doing that again because they did the same thing to ferals. They just implemented it. Instead of just implementing it, they should have tested it first. Had the players test it and give feedback that way. Because there was a huge community cry out for the feral druids after they got buffed that why aren't other people getting buffed? Why is not this not happening? And then after, a couple of weeks of silence from them and seeing the buff out, they finally did a post about it. And that got a lot of good and bad feedback. I think that they should have done it differently, and I would say it's a bad thing. And I play a feral druid. I love the changes that they did. So don't get me wrong on saying that it was bad changes. It was just bad implementation of the changes. They should have tested it more. They should have allowed us to get our hands on it before making it live and just absolutely getting everybody pissed off. Because it wasn't ferals that were pissed off. It was warriors, rogues, and even fire mages and ret paladins got pissed off because of how big the change was for us.
Funny part is they do test these things on retail, yet they just it's kind of a feeling of getting the scraps because they don't test it and just throw it in and hope for the best.
They test it in retail with their own private team, and then they give it out to the community, which is what they should have done, was test it internally first, get the feedback from their internal testers, and then go out and say, here's a change we have implemented on the PTR, and then test it from there, get community feedback, and kind of get the results of that. Instead of being so quiet about it for weeks. Because we knew something was coming. I knew something was coming. They were just too quiet about it.
Can you guys see them tweaking any other classes in Phase 3, even in ICC?
They already did.
Warriors for Exo, was that?
Warriors and fire mages got a buff.
Oh, the Ignite munching and
Ignite munching and Ren munching, or not Ren munching, but the munching of their bleeds for warriors. They did get a fix.
And then the warrior, what was it? Shield throw? Shields the what was it?
Shattering throw.
Shattering throw, yeah.
They gave it a glyph to actually be used in every stance, which makes it a lot better to actually use and makes it a DPS increase for not only them, even though they lose rage doing it and lose a GCD, but it gives everybody else a DPS increase as far as physical damage. Something that a lot of people should have been doing in the first place. And I've preached this to a lot of warriors, and they still say that they won't be doing it. I'm like, why? It's a DPS increase. Well, it's not a DPS increase for me. I'm like, people are too small-minded to think that the raid as a whole, getting them a DPS increase, even though you're losing minuscule numbers in comparison, can be better for you parse-wise and looks better on you to actually do your whole class things. Because, like, the first couple of weeks that we were progging on hard mode Vezax, I was throwing out heals. I did not care one bit. I was throwing out heals. I ran out of mana. Guess what? I was going back in cat form and getting my mana back because that was part of my utility. Using the class's full utility is what you're supposed to be doing.
So Table has been bringing it's some sort of thing from what's that? It's the circle area next to Silithus. Ungoro crater.
The crystal yields.
He's been bringing crystal yields, and last night in our raid, our holy pally was putting up their crystal shields instead. So it allowed Table to use his Serenite bombs, his sappers, and our holy pally was applying that debuff instead. And then even today, another guildie bought like a whole bunch of those crystal yield mats and sent it to the holy pally. So now like we're good for a little bit on those, but that's another little buff that not every raid is probably using.
You need 2 of them to make it useful on a longer fight. Because then it has 100% uptime. It's a 2-minute CD, 1 minute uptime. So you need 2 people to do it. And it is a DPS increase and allows, once physical DPS hit their armor pen cap, it allows for very, very close to 100%. Because even though our armor pen cap says 100%, it's not 100% of the boss's armor. In order to hit that, you have to have the minor, you have to have the major, and you have to have shattering throws and the crystal yield in order for you to have that 100% armor cap debuff.
It's a lot of buffs to try to organize and figure out.
Right. And as a physical DPS, like I can tell you all of this, like crystal yields cost 1 red and 1 blue from Ungoro Crater in order to turn in. I think it's the west side that you turn it in on. But that crystal yield is still super important to have because even though it's not like a large amount of armor, it's still enough for every physical DPS to notice something is up.
Yeah. I know that if I get a different demonic pact buff as a caster, I'm like, either I'm hitting really hard or I definitely notice when it's a smaller demonic pact. I'm like, why is my Starfire hitting for so low? Like, what's going on? So yeah, that's probably the same thing that yield's doing.
Right. And so demonic pact almost lasts as long as the crystal yield does. And you can definitely feel it when you have either one. Because I've played almost every class that WoW has to offer this time around. And every single buff that you get, every single debuff that's on the boss, you can feel it. You can physically feel it just by looking at your numbers and how easy it is for you to hit higher numbers. If you're not getting those perfect rolls right off the start, then it hurts.
Well, Panda, let me ask you because Ulduar didn't get nerfed. We got XT got nerfed a couple weeks in, but other than that, Ulduar's not been nerfed throughout the
And
phase. Algalon, because the tank thing.
Yeah, because of the tank thing, it's technically a nerf.
Okay, I'll give you that. But like Ulduar overall didn't get nerfed. Was that a good thing for you, Panda? Because you weren't really clearing hard modes. Would you have preferred it to get nerfed at all at any point? If they nerfed it even a couple weeks ago, like 2 weeks ago, would that have been good? Do you think, or it's great that they didn't nerf it overall?
It wouldn't be fair for the casuals that dictate the game, same way the hardcore that dictate the game. I think it's completely fine the way it was. It was fair. It wasn't unfair. The difficulty levels. It also puts the more casual guild players in the place where they now understand how hard the game's gonna get later on. I wouldn't have nerfed anything. I would nerf it later, like they did with Serpent Shrine, isn't it? The TBC ones. They nerfed it
SSC,
way too hard.
TK.
Yeah, they nerfed them way too hard. But I'm completely fine with them not nerfing it at all. Nerfing it later, like after the phase, I'm fine with that, but not to the level that they did those. So
I
dad guilds could catch up in some way.
I agree that they should have nerfed it after the phase. The way that they nerfed SSCTK was not a good nerf,
No.
and they should have done it after the phase, but those were the original nerfs that they put in originally. So it made sense why they did it, but the timing was not right. And the timing this time around is better because they still haven't nerfed it. Even
Yeah, I
though a
think
lot of people have cried for nerfs.
I
But
think like
yeah.
2 weeks into the next phase or a month in the next phase, I think that's the point where you do start to nerf some of them. Maybe not all of them at once. That's when you would do it because it means people are getting top gear and going in and they're trying Auto War again.
Mm.
After that, when they have a little bit more gear to try and progress the hard modes before they get nerfed, and it gives them a little bit of time, to kill it on the hardest mode that they could possibly kill it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fair. I didn't even think about it. Like the only time that I was thinking about them nerfing it would be like at the start of phase 3. I didn't even think about like like a month or two into phase 3, then putting the nerf in. But that sounds kind of reasonable too to me.
It sounds reasonable, but the problem is that if you're trying to go for ahead of a curve, it's already too late in phase 3.
Yeah.
Why keep the bosses the same level when it's already too late to get the achievement or the feat of strength for it? So just nerf it. There's a lot of people that are still going to be going back, and a lot of people just want to get in and out and be done.
Should they put the skips in so that you can teleport to say Vezex and then well, I guess there's no Vezex teleport. Terrible example. Even the teleport for XT is right behind the boss. So that one's kind of a weird one. Should they figure out how to put those in? They did talk a little bit about it during that community council video, but it was kind of like no real answer that we got.
You should still be killing Flame Leviathan because that actually locks you to the raid. And you can already skip right to XT right after you kill Flame Leviathan, so there's like no point to put it there. You could put it after Kolagarn because there's no point of doing Kolagarn, and he's a skippable boss at that point, and that gives you access to all the keepers. I don't think that they should put in a Yogg skip just because the fight up to Yogg is part of how it was back in the day. They didn't put any skips in originally. They could put in the Yogg skip. They could put an Iron Council skip in. They could do all of that other stuff, but I don't think it'll be good for the game. I think probably just skipping past Kolagarn would be the best thing because Kolagarn's like, he doesn't give you anything.
Yeah, he
Nothing.
really doesn't. And our warrior falls off every week.
Yeah, like skip
Maybe then-
Kolagarn. Ariaya should be taken out
Mm.
or put into like an actual RP event instead, so that way you don't have to worry about fighting her because she doesn't give anything, nothing good. Temporary items.
They could just make her static beside the general Vezex door and remove that so she doesn't move.
They
No.
could just make her instead of the old one mob at the door. They could just put her there instead.
Oh yeah, that works.
All right, hear me out. They put Ariaya as the Animus on Vezex, so if Ariaya dies, it activates hard mode for Vezex.
Just put her in the expedition grinds.
Yeah.
Solved.
Yeah.
They already have an easier way of doing Vezex hard mode because if you look at how retail is now, the timer's shorter, like a lot shorter. It's like 2-3 minutes shorter. So like there's really no reason to put another boss in front of Vezex.
Yeah, so could you see like a Yogg skip after phase 3, like when phase 4 drops, so that people can go back and get Mem's head and that's all they have to do, just skip to Yogg, kill him, zero
I
light,
think at that,
get Mem's head.
Yeah.
I think at that point it's too late though. At the same time, people
Well-
will want to do it, but it's
As soon as Cata pre-patch hits, all of the drops as far as mounts go, they go to 1%. All of them. Granted, the VOA one's still there, but there. I was gonna put out something about the VOA bosses maybe next week. I went back and did them on retail just to see how good the drop rate was on the mount, and every time I've done it with all 4 bosses active, and I pulled all 4 of them, pulled them to one spot, killed them all within 30 seconds to get the achievement, because that's what I was going for. You can get the drop 100% of the time. Every time I've done it on 6 different characters, I got it every time.
And VOA only has one mount, right? Each boss just has a chance to drop it.
Correct. So I think when the 4th boss comes out, people will be doing mount runs. They'll take 4 to 5 tanks, 6 healers, and you will still blow up.
What about Onyxia? Do you like? I heard Onyxia is going to be like super easy. People are going to be treating Onyxia kind of like VOA, where it's like a spec run, and then Onyxia can drop a mount too.
Yeah, it was always
Yeah.
like that.
It's gonna be the same as VOA in my opinion, just because like the gear in there isn't great. It's place gear. It's just sit temporary gear till you get better gear from TOGC. It's a good way to gear up your alts too, because it's unchanged. The fight back in the day was still super easy. People will go for the bag because you get a guaranteed bag every time.
Does the bag change, or is it, what was it, 18, I think, back then? 16 or 18? Did they get bigger?
It's bigger. Back in Wrath when it launched, it was the same size as the
22?
OS.
Oh, okay, yeah. So 20 or 22 then, yeah?
I think it's 22.
22, I just found it. Enlarged
Nice.
Onyxia high backpack.
Yeah, so it was the same size as that, and you got it from both 10 and 25. So you had double the chances of getting it, and it was a guaranteed drop every time.
But the mount's not guaranteed?
Mount is not guaranteed. It
No.
is the same drop rate that it's always been. But there are 2 different mounts. One for 10 and one for 25.
No, different color? Is that all it is, like reskin?
The same reigns of the Naxxramas drag.
I think they're 2 different mounts, aren't they? Because I think one is different. I might be
That'd be
thinking
weird
of
if it
the,
was.
Dragon Soul one.
Yeah, Dragon Soul one's different, but I want the blue Onyxia mount, not the purple Onyxia mount.
No, it's one item. Reigns of the Naxxramas drag.
Ooh. I wonder if Subtle's going to be able to solo the 10-mana Onyxia. Prot Pally OP.
Yes. You need. Well, I don't think solo. I think you could 3-man it. You just need enough DPS to take out the ads, and a healer to, keep him up just in case. But the healer mostly just DPSs on a prop paladin in 10-man, honestly.
I remember in Classic there was a 3-man. I think it was like Hunter Warrior Ally, Hunter Warrior Priest, something that took like an hour to trio Onyxia back then, and that was epic. So I'd love to see something like that again.
Isn't there an enrage timer on her too this time?
Oh, I don't like enrage timers. Like Razor Scale having an enrage timer, like come on.
That one's fun because
there was a reason behind the enrage timer for Razor Scale though.
Oh, for the achievement or?
Yeah, for the achievement.
That achievement, man, we got it. I don't know how many times. And eventually, I was like, "Oh yeah, come on, let's do the achievement." Like, come on, what, you guys don't want to do it? What do you mean you don't want to? It's so much fun.
I've only done it 8 times, but I only have one mind on one character because I've done it on the same character every time, which is awful.
Oh man.
That has to be the worst time gated quest.
Yeah.
Like how long it takes. 'Cause it's not actually participating in the boss in an interesting way.
Alright, so Joyous Journeys, we can say that's a good thing that they brought it back, but is it a bad thing that they keep taking it away? Should it be a permanent Joyous Journeys, or is it good that it's only here for like a month before the next phase?
I think it should be an opt-in thing because of how many people got bored. It should be an opt-in thing.
Oh, like, so kind of like how it is right now that it's active. You can turn it off right now.
Yeah, you just talk to an innkeeper and you can turn it
Mhm.
off.
Yeah, so
Like,
you'd prefer permanent uptime and
If people want to level correctly, then they can still level correctly. There's a lot of people that just want to level fast and get their new character up as fast as possible, but there's a lot of people that just don't care about that and they just like leveling tunes, which is fine.
they do have it in retail, not Joyous Journey directly, but War Mode, which just means you can turn on an XP buff,
Mm.
but your PvP's enabled. You can turn it off and your PvE is enabled,
oh yeah.
which would work with
But
Joyous Journeys as like an opt-in thing. Just enable PvP with them.
yeah, when every server's 99% one faction, then that kind of is
Yeah,
like,
that's
eh.
Yeah.
Right, but
Or,
if they made it like the war mode, they would have to do cross server like they do in retail because
yeah.
retail is cross server entirely.
So classic era, I think, is cross server. Like, should they do that for Wrath? Should they join like a couple servers together? Some
They
that they,
should have done it in classic when it was original
yeah,
because servers died.
yeah. So like, they could look at the server pops and be like, yo, this PvP server on the East Coast is 99% Horde. This one's 99% Alliance. Let's merge these two together, and even merge other ones that are different pops and stuff that are dominated one faction or the other, so that there's a bigger player pool for dungeons and stuff. That's a good thing that they could do?
That's a good thing that they could do instead of bringing in RFD because then it allows more people to try and do that type of stuff. Just keep the same rules as retail. You can't trade over gold. You can trade over items, but you can't trade over gold. And like that's pretty much it. Like you could get everything that they have in retail as far as cross servers go and just make it one gigantic cross server, just put a whole bunch of different layers in or whatever and give us like a Joyous Journeys war mode kind of thing. Could be good for the game. Give us a lot more to do, especially for heroics. More people are just looking for more stuff to do in the game.
Mm.
Like I've had the debate against cross server, which was server identity, but server identity does not exist anymore at this point. In Classic, it did because of the AQ event, but there's no event like that to even happen. I would just do the retail path, as you said.
Even the largest servers, even one of the largest servers that had the most AQ mounts, one of the most AQ mounts, is dead.
Mm.
You guys remember that?
I remember one server got like 50.
There was two servers in total that got over 50. One of them was a Russian server, and one of them was a US server. The server that died completely was Fairbanks. I only know that because I was on it.
I don't even remember how many our server got, but the server that I was on died. Azure Song. There was, I think, 4 people on Ironforge Pro that raided the last week or whatever. However, they figure out their population. I think that meant there was 4 people on Warcraft logs.
Yeah, my server originally died as well because I'm Zandalari tribe at
Mhm.
PvP RP realm in the EU.
So speaking of servers dying, I know the 2 PvP servers, the EU one and the NA one, died. Like Thekel on EU and Sky Fury, I think was the NA one. They're both like dead. So like, I guess Fresh didn't work. like was is this is off topic for phase 2 specific, but what do you guys think of like fresh servers? If they launched a fresh server right now with the WoW token being in and everything, would that be, by the time ICC comes out, would that be a better server than what we are currently all playing on?
At this point, people have too much player or character investment. That's kind of why I think the fresh servers just don't work. Because why level again when I have already got a max level with an epic flying mind with dual spec and everything? It's the time investment, and because players are older now, they don't have that time investment to just start fresh again. Especially if it's the same expansion or the expansion's progressing.
Could there be any buffs that Blizzard would put in, like, hey, this fresh server also has 50% extra reputation gain from your tabards and stuff like that? You
would have to be
also have a higher drop chance on mounts and stuff from, like, Obsidian 3 Drake drops 5 mounts instead of 0. Could they somehow tweak it, do you think? Like, they're not going to, obviously. Like, these would be some major changes, but
No, I think it's time against money investment. That why spend the time redoing something you've already done once? Why
Hmm.
take the adventure again? It's not like it's classic coming out again. That is like a one-off thing, but like starting fresh again, no. I don't think you can entice them enough. Even if you had everyone gets 10,000 gold at the start,
yeah,
epic flying.
yeah, epic flying for free at level 80. Come to the fresh server.
Yeah, it involves leveling again, which a lot of people don't want to do. Even though the economy's on, the current servers are wrecked. It doesn't matter.
Just
to
give
them.
joyous journeys on the fresh server. Permanent joyous journeys on the fresh server. That way people would actually play the fresh server and say you have like, I don't know, a month. Because I've hit level 80. Granted, I'm one of the few and far in between. I've hit level 80 on a character in just under 4 days. From 1 to 80, I hit in just 4 days
Without Joyous Journeys.
without joyous journeys. It was a warlock.
With
Turned out
heirlooms or no heirlooms too?
with heirlooms.
Okay.
So without heirlooms, it would take me just over 4 days to do it of total play time. But like that's like 2 weeks, 3 weeks on my time, because I work from home, so like I get to play while working because it's just that easy.
I'm in
There
the
are
same.
there are some people that will take a lot longer. So like even if you put out the first tier in like 2-3 weeks, there's still going to be people behind. But like say you give it 2 months before the first tier's out, you'll have a lot of people that want to get server first again.
See, I think if you take it from the perspective of us, it's different. A more casual player wouldn't want to do it again. Is probably the best way I can put it. And you need the casuals with the more hardcore players.
And
And
you're
just
absolutely right.
you need them. It's like if there's only wolves in PvP, then the wolves will just cannibalize and stop playing. You need the sheep. You need those bad casual players.
Missed opportunity to say bad.
Ah, like it's a numbers game, and if you can't entice the casuals enough, you just won't get them. And if it's only wolves, then what's the point? You'll have people getting, as you said, like server first titles. Like these people will prep in advance and stuff, which means the competition is that hard. Why bother?
One would say the competition is barely there.
Wait,
Nice.
um, that would be my thought on it. Same way, like arena participation isn't that high.
Hmm.
You need more casual players to get involved, and there's no incentive for them to get involved.
What makes you think that arena participation isn't that high?
I just think there's less players that do that as one of the things they do in WoW. I know people that play arena, but
There, there's actually way more players now in arena than there was in TBC.
is
I
there?
can guarantee you that right now because I do arenas.
Hmm.
I do it because I want to get my bear bis.
I wanted to do it, but having the gear rating gated stopped me from really like doing too much. I got like 1500 or something, whatever it was, so that I could buy whatever that piece was. I think I could get 2 piece set bonus with that.
It's 1600 for 2 piece
16.
bonus.
Okay. I think I got
Um,
1600 then, but that was
what?
it.
How many games did you play?
Maybe a little over 100, 125 ish.
See, and that's part of the issue is that there are people that don't do a lot of PvP that have a harder time getting up to the 1800 ranking because I did 50 games and I got to 1500 easy. It's it's your win loss at the beginning that really drives you up, and a lot of people don't realize that when it comes to arena. So it's just a lack of communication from the community as a whole as how to get your rating up faster because people just want to do that stuff for gold, or there's actually some people that do it for real life money. Like they train you how to play your class for real life money.
Mm.
And that is another problem with the game for arenas is that that community is never going to change because there's no way to regulate it correctly.
I know one Boomy was selling like 10,000 gold per hour for carry/lessons, but I haven't heard of like RMT for arenas in a while.
I've had a lot of people approach me about RMT, and I keep telling them no. There's just no way I'm going to do that. I'm not the best feral out there to even try and coach somebody. It's a lot of the classes you kind of have to play some PvP in order to feel out your class because I can't teach you how to play your class. I can teach you what to do. It's whether or not you know what to do in certain situations. That's something you can't teach. You can coach them to do it, but whether they absorb the information or not is a completely different thing.
See, I can see the RMT thing because it's common in Destiny as well for Trials of Osiris. Like RMT is like a thing people do on Twitch. They will carry people, and you see them trade money in Twitch, like on PayPal and stuff, donations.
Yeah,
It's
and there's no way to regulate it because unless you're watching every single stream or every single person and they go up from being like nothing, they're like 0 and 100 games in, they have no rating, which is like next to impossible, but this is just like a impossible scenario in the first place. Like there's no way to really regulate that community whatsoever. And so RMT for arenas is just always going to be there because there's no way you can actually tell if somebody paid for a boost unless they gave out their account information to another player and were using a different server. Like the only way you could tell is based off of IP servers, and that requires a lot more research and something that's classic devs will never do.
yeah, he actually came up with the way that they actually or find the Destiny players that do that is they only ban people that share accounts.
Yeah, that's the only way you're going to be able to ban somebody for doing an RMT transaction like that. And that's something that they have done before, but it's not widely known that that gets done because a lot of the times you can just use a VPN and appear in the same place that they're logging into. So it's super hard to track that type of stuff, and arenas is just difficult to do in that scenario. You can still do it. You can have people that can coach you, and if you play with the right people, they can help you get to your ratings. It's just a matter of knowing who you're playing with and knowing your class well enough on what you can do and compared to what you should do. And logically, it doesn't make any sense to do RMT. It doesn't, because if you get that rating, what's to stop you from doing it again?
No, I would never pay for arena. I'd never pay for in-game gold either, but that's just me. Mm.
The people that pay for that type of stuff are just, they're casuals.
Yeah, they want the loot, they want the prestige, but they don't have the time, but they do have the money to get there.
Yeah, they just don't have the commitment, and you can get away with it in arena.
Have you looked at any loot from Phase 3 launch PvP gear that could help you out at all as a feral?
There's nothing as far as launch gear that you could get from PvP that could help you as a feral unless you are missing an item. So I'm missing the chest and the shoulders from Ulduar, but the problem with me using the PvP items instead of those two items is that they don't have the stats that I want on them. Because the shoulders have hit, the chest has expertise. Both of those things you cannot get on a PvP item because it's not on a normal tier token item. It's on your off pieces like your cloak, your neck, your ring. So like I'd have to replace one of those 3 items, which I have pretty close in BIS for those 3 items, so there's no point to changing out those things. And the resilience stat is a wasted stat as a feral DPS. If I was tanking, it's still a wasted stat. Resilience does absolutely nothing for feral druids as a tank unless you're fighting Thorim. Thorim's the only one that you have to worry about being crit. As a feral, you never have to worry about being crit. Just go into bear form. You just have to have enough HP to survive it. That's the whole thing, is HP. If I was tanking as a feral, I would pick up the PvP items. But since I'm not tanking anymore because of the buff and because I do so much cleave damage on a lot of the fights, I don't think I'm going to be tanking in 25 man. In 10 man is a different story, because 10 man you always need 2 tanks. It's always good that you have a feral that can tank, because if you have like a Frost DK, they're most likely gonna do a lot more cleave, just not consistent like a feral. So it has its ups and downs in both scenarios.
So as I've been playing my new feral alt, I tanked an RFC dungeon. I know it's a low level dungeon, but it's got me thinking about the feral tank threat modifier that they changed. Have you noticed a difference? Did you calculate the difference? Like, what is it, like 5% extra threat?
It's 10%. They straight out said
10%? Wow.
And I did the math. It is 10%, but it's still not enough. At high ends, it's not enough. Low ends during the dungeons, it feels good.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I can say I have played Kata as a feral before, and threat on a feral druid in Kata, it's nothing like it is now. Absolutely nothing. It's night and freaking day for this.
It's like it's way better in Kata.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
way better in Kata. Like your threat is ridiculous in Kata as compared to now. And that's why I'm making a prediction now. In Kata, if they come out with Kata Classic, your 2 tanks that you're going to want, you're still going to want a Prot Paladin for Prog because they're just that good. But as far as threat goes, your Prot Paladins are going to be capped eventually, but your Ferals and your DKs are going to be one of the best tanks in Kata. They were back in the day. I still think that they're going to be now, but I think DKs are still going to pull ahead because DKs are just far superior than bears.
Well, Panda, let me ask you. You might not have an answer, and that's totally fine. But is there a piece or two that you have your eye on for Phase 3 that you want to get, like, as soon as Phase 3 launches? Like, yo, I hope I have Prio on this piece for week 1 so that I can get it. Is it like a weapon? Is it a trinket? Another piece? What are you thinking for your first piece? What would you want?
Well, I'm full best, but I was using Sundial for a long time, and I'm using currently Eye in Pandora, so it's Reign of the Dead.
Yeah.
The first, it's the first thing. It's the only obvious thing because I have hard mode pieces for every other piece.
Oh, not
Uh,
not to brag or anything. I've got hard mode loot for everything else, but
what? Advantage of being the only boomkin.
oh, no flare. I'm so sorry for you.
No, yeah, I'm missing a. Hey, Sundial's cool.
Yeah. Well, what about Feral Bearbus? What's like your top item?
So I did do a very long video on this, but I'll give the short description. I'm going to be going after the tier tokens.
All
It's
4, huh?
all 4 because it's the biggest upgrade out of any of the pieces. Even if you get the 245, the difference between the 245 and the 252, I've calculated it out to be about 500 DPS difference. Even though the set bonus isn't that great, the 4 piece is going to be the hardest pieces to get. So I want to try and go after the hardest pieces. I'm already going to have Prio on my weapon. My weapon has 0 competition because it is the best to give to a feral druid over a hunter, no matter what weapon it is. If it's the staff or if it's the polearm. Because either way, both of those items are better on a feral druid than they are on a hunter. Gives more DPS. It's only about 100 DPS for a hunter. It's 200 DPS for a feral druid compared to Dreambinder.
Hmm. I've been kind of thinking about the trinket high on Prio 2, but I'm also thinking of weapons. Because I have a staff right now. I kind of want to move towards main hand offhand in TOC so that I have like the option to upgrade either the main hand or the offhand in ICC. And I wanna have main hand offhand in ICC. So I've been trying to think like not just phase 3 but phase 4 as well. Have you thought ahead to phase 4 at all for any of your phase 3 stuff, Bearbus?
So I have, but my phase 3 to phase 4 items, which are only 2 from TOGC, are, in my opinion, unrealistic to try and get because it's the trinket that every physical DPS wants, and even tanks want it because it's a threat trinket, which is Deathbringers. Not Deathbringers, but Death's Choice or Death's Verdict. So that's one item that holds up in ICC. The other item is the cloak. The cloak is a different story, though. In my opinion, I've done a lot of, and everybody should know this by now that has actually talked to me. I've done a lot of simming for every phase and tried to get out every little piece of item. The cloak is an item that holds up in ICC because of how good it is, because it has armor pen. But the problem with it is that the 10-man cloak is slightly worse, but it's not big enough of a jump for me to warrant going after the cloak until it's like no one else really needs it. It's bigger upgrade on me kind of thing. And also the other problem with the cloak is that you have another option if you've never gotten that 50 out of 50 25-man cloak is the cloak from Loot Ship. We call it Loot Ship because it's a loot pinata. The Loot Ship cloak is basically an upgrade of the cloak from I think it's from Thorum or Hodir 25-man hard mode. It's basically an upgrade from that cloak. It has the stats you kind of want, which are haste, crit, and attack power, but it doesn't have the armor pen that you want. The armor pen is the biggest factor between the two. The difference between those two cloaks, in my opinion, in full bis, is 50 DPS. It's not that big to warrant to try and steal it over somebody that's going to gain 100 DPS difference between the two cloaks. And I don't think anybody gets that much, but I still think a lot of other classes get more than a Feral Druid does from that cloak. And I can rant on about this for days, and Go knows this.
Oh yeah. Well, since Grif is kind of on a hiatus right now, are you planning on making even more videos than you might have had planned already, or what do you have stocked up and you're
So I'm
thinking
kind of
about?
just going with the flow at the current moment. I haven't gotten any recommendations of what I should do. So me going with the flow is pretty much what I've put out. I do have a few more videos I'm going to be doing to try and get up there to be more of a feral focus, but I might do some Holy Pally videos eventually, just because that's one of the other characters I'm probably gonna play. If it's not Holy, it's probably gonna be Prot. So there's there's a couple of things I'm thinking on making, and my channel is probably going to be a really good one to watch out for. I hit over 1,000 viewers last week on my videos, so that's always a good thing. But I'm still lacking on the subscriber side, so
Yeah, it takes a lot to get those subs up there, man. I know the grind.
yeah, it's a fun grind though. Like I'm honestly, I have fun putting out these videos. So if anybody has like an idea of how of what I can do to help them, I will do it. And that's what I've done on live stream for a bunch of different other people. Is that I've looked at their logs, I broke it down for them on how they could perform better. And then within the next couple of weeks, you get another message back and say, "Hey man, you really helped me. I love what you do. Thanks so much." And I appreciate that. I do it for the little people. I don't do it for me. I do it for the little people. And I also did a log breakdown, what, 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, on TOGC logs on what I could have done better. And I put it into a video, and I'm just like, even if this doesn't get any views, it's something I can go back and look at and say, okay, so what am I doing wrong now that I already pointed myself out as?
Yeah, usually I would put out a video like for the bosses on how to parse them a couple weeks into each phase. But this time, before phase 3 launches, I'm thinking about doing like a progression video, like helpful tips to help you progress through talk. Even though it's an easy phase, I think it's something to get my foot in the water for that type of video. So doing like the log breakdown like you did sounds like something really cool.
Yeah, and I might actually do that. I did a little bit of a breakdown in that video that I did break down my logs on how to actually parse, because the parse rankings already were put out on how to parse for those fights. But I might do a little bit more in depth for each individual boss, other than faction champions, because faction champions varies every single week.
Oh
Like it
yeah.
could be something completely different one week to the next. So there's no way to really know how to do a lot of that stuff.
I've,
The biggest one might be Beast of Northrend, though. Like that's probably going to be the longest
mm.
video, because a Nubarak is, in my opinion, really easy. Twin Valks, you kind of have to rely on your raid leader's callouts, and that's pretty much it. Like
Yeah, Twins has some RNG to it. Like what mechanic are the boss gonna do?
it only has RNG for the first one. After you know the
Yeah.
first one, you know that the other one's going to cast one of two abilities. And after that after that second one goes out, you know for the next two abilities exactly what it is. So if you don't know this already, it's that the first one, first ability that pops up is either going to be a light or dark shield, or damage. And the shield you always want to DPS down no matter what, because that breaks the heal that they're going to do, which you don't want bosses healing in the first place. So you kind of want to break the shield no matter what. But the damage is going to depend on your team and your whole raid lead's call. And then once you know the first ability, the second one's going to be the opposite color. So light or dark, whichever one was first. And then it's going to be one of the two, shield or heal. If you get double heal off the bat, that boss is just going to freaking melt because you don't even have to swap. You don't even have to swap your colors on that. You just need everybody focusing down the shield. That's it. And that, if you can get that type of RNG, you're going to parse really high because you're not swapping and you're keeping your debuff up.
Mm-hmm.
So because of the RNG of twins, there's like no real way to really know if you're going to parse or not without getting that perfect one. Because that perfect one is always going to put that one person way higher because they never have to swap. They don't have to jump off of bosses to go pick up a different orb color.
Mm-hmm. I gotta use the restroom really quick, but if you wanted to say one thing that you would change about phase 2 to make it better than it was, like what it would be, then I'm gonna ask you for like a TLDR when I get back, if that's cool.
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool. Be right back.
So one thing I would change probably for Ulduar is I would make it more of a progressive dynamic. Probably change a little bit of the trash up a little. Just the trash didn't really seem like it was that much of an issue. Yes, you can lose melee on a lot of the trash, but it was just the same mechanics over and over and over. So it kind of made it a really boring in general. As far as bosses go, like I really wouldn't change much about any of the bosses. It's just the bosses don't really feel like they're hard, even on hard mode. And to me, for a semi-hardcore guild, like they weren't that hard. They were fun to brag on. Like dying in Old War actually felt fun. So the fact that we actually got harder content than what we were expecting is definitely a keeper. Do you have anything, Panda?
I'm trying to think. I would agree on the trash. As it's such a big raid, a lot of time is wasted on the trash. The trash was interesting for the first couple of times, but then after that, it just became a nuisance, which is slowing raids down more than anything.
I would definitely say the General Vezex trash was probably the best trash in there.
Oh yeah,
It
we
had
triple
actual
pull.
mechanics.
Yeah, we triple pull it to see if we can kill them every week, just to see.
I went to a speed run a few weeks ago, and we killed the entire raid in an hour 16, which is fucking ridiculous in comparison to my main raid guild. So, like, we double pulled the trash on the General Vezex, and I think it was like 56k on cap. Because I popped everything. I popped Berserk. I popped Tiger's Fury. I just fucking went ham on that shit.
You pop a potion too?
Yeah. Hello?
Nice. Okay. Just making sure.
You gotta go ham on it. Like you still have two of the big guys left, and like you have a good 3 minutes of trash. Like even if you double pull, you still have a good 3 minutes of trash. So pop your 3-minute cooldowns. Like that is just gonna make you feel so good for the night. Hitting that 56k. I felt like I was gonna die because I was also working while doing that speed run at the same time. So that was like interesting.
So what was that change that you said you would make?
The biggest change was that I would change up some of the trash mechanics, even just add an extra mob. I wouldn't change anything for the bosses. Like there are some bosses that nobody likes. There are some bosses that everybody likes. So like the boss mechanics weren't the change that I would like. I like the trash change because trash was supposed to be the fun part of the raid.
I love trash, and Vezex trash is my favorite part of the night. And last night, somehow, Scotty, I haven't looked back at the logs, but Scotty on his Shadow Priest with Mind Seer topped the meters. And it's usually me and Table fighting. and then maybe like one of the other Shadow Priests. But dude, Scotty like blew me out of the water on both of like our big packs, like where I have Starfall and all my cooldowns. He went up ahead.
It's Shadow Priest. What I've seen is kind of RNG as far as like how you can do on AOE. But if it's good enough and you're hitting the right target, because you're cleaving off of that target, you can get the most damage off of it. And from what I've found in doing those trash is if you target the fire elemental, because you have fire mages now, they don't get hit by the fire from fire mages. So target the fire elemental and just cleave off of that. Perfect every time.
Well, Panda, if you could make a change in Phase 2 that Blizzard could have done, is there anything that's coming to your head that you would have preferred that they did differently? You could take your time. It's a big question. There's a lot of things that you're probably thinking of, like, oh yeah, they could have changed this.
It's actually the opposite.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like even though like my casual guild have problems, we still have only killed one hard mode on that with them guys. It's nothing's unfair. Every boss is completely fair. The mechanics are fair. There's nothing wrong with anything. I would like the possibility. I would have changed something with Algalon, maybe extend the timer or something. But that also would still. It wouldn't affect the more hardcore players, but it might affect them because they would get more progress when they were progressing it. But it also allows players to get a wee bit more time to test on it. You know, try it out a wee bit more.
Well, let me ask you about the 252 loot, because Algalon has like 3 pieces, I think, of 252 loot, but every other hard mode boss only has 1. Did you like that? Would you have changed that, like an extra 252 piece per hard mode boss, or?
I thought it was fine. I would have changed the item level from 252 and lowered it a wee bit, but that's the only thing. Like 248 or something like that, slightly better than 10-man talk gear.
Okay.
That would be my only change. I would lower it a little bit, but not by much.
I disagree, just
So?
because like if you lower a little bit, that just makes 25-man loot normal for TOGC that much more impressive. And it just, no matter what piece you get from 25-man normal, it just makes it feel like you did hard mode for absolutely nothing. Because a lot of my 252 pieces don't get replaced until I do heroic. That's my whole reason behind it, is that I don't replace any of those pieces till I do heroic.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I like the challenge, but that's just me.
Like I'm in the same boat where not a lot gets replaced until I do 25-man heroic. It's just more thinking out loud. More than anything, I wouldn't have changed anything really. I think one piece of 252 is fine. It's a prestigious item. It's not. You shouldn't get multiples of anything, in my opinion, for 252 loot.
I shouldn't be able to get Flare and another item off of Ezx.
No.
No.
It would take the fun out of it.
And I would agree. I think they should keep the heroic gear the way it is, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to throw in an extra piece next year.
Yeah.
Just to gear up people and just to get them into the new content faster, because that gear can put you into ICC. Like you can quit and not play throughout the entire TOGC and still go into ICC with like your full old Warbis and still be fine. That's what a lot of people did back in the day, and it still can be done. Unless they change ICC drastically enough for it to matter to do TOGC, there's just TOGC is just a short raid, really short. People will be in and out in like 30 minutes, and there's not much else to do.
Yeah, Blizzard didn't really mention 25-man hard mode loot like doubling, like Nax loot doubled in 25, right?
They did not. They said that they might add another normal piece, but not a heroic piece. But that's not confirmed yet.
So we need to get a Reddit thread started that we need a second heroic piece to drop.
Sounds like you need a second heroic piece to drop.
I just want my flare, man.
Yeah, you want better chances at that one item. I've never, in all of the raids that we've ever killed hard mode Iron Council, I've never seen shoulder pads with the intruder. Never.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you should join my raid because every single week I'm waiting on the cape.
And every guild has a different piece that they've just never seen, but there's another piece that they see every week. It's crazy.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like the RNG factor for hard mode loot is not the way it should be. It's just not. If they add another piece, that would just mean that you could get double of one item that you don't even need. So
yeah,
it could be both a plus and a minus, but it's to be seen because they haven't officially announced anything as far as changes other than what they've changed for TOGC.
Yeah.
It would incentivize people to go back as well. To trying to fight. Because if you're not doing if you're not doing Valeniers, then go back for a double chance of hard mode loot. Why not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd make me want to go back for like my ults and stuff.
Like my guild are not doing auto war this phase. As a set raid, it's just a setup raid whenever. We're only focusing on talk. Just to get players a wee bit more unwind from the big long raids.
If they nerf it, do you see your guild going back on a raid night?
100%, because they lost 3 Valeniers.
So, yeah.
We need to get them back.
If they nerf it, everybody's gonna fucking go back. No questions asked.
Oh yeah, if it's like gonna be like a quick hour-and-a-half adventure, why not?
And it would make me want to go back on all my alts that are like lower eye level. It's like, oh, okay, I can approach Old War now without having to feel like I'm griefing my raid because I only have 4,200 gear score or something.
Yep.
All right.
Anyways.
Cool. Anything else to add?
Nah, I'm good.
Yeah, I think I'm good too.
I will probably be taking another week and a half off from doing any videos, so you'll probably see me more next week. I'll be here next week if you need me go.
Cool.
But yeah, like I'm planning on doing a lot more for ferals now that Grif is taking a step back. But if anybody has any questions, feel free to shoot me a message on Discord. I answer all my DMs, all of them. I even answer like comments on my YouTube channel if you have any comments there.
A YouTuber that actually answers comments.
What? No, no, that doesn't sound like anybody. But yeah, I've answered every single comments that I've ever gotten for my phase 3 bis list because I put that out. I think it was like 10-12 hours before the Feral Druid Discord put theirs out. So yeah. Yeah, I
first.
I was first. Like it's over. Just that one video is over 1,000 views, but like I was definitely before the Druid Discord, and I've been wanting to put that out beforehand, but I just wanted to get a little bit more details before I put it out because I've been working on this since like not even halfway through this phase, like the beginning of this phase.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
cool.
Feral's looking really good. Everybody's looking really good as far as next phase goes. That's where the outliers, like Warriors are actually looking really good in TOGC because of all the cleave. Because of the cleave, they're actually going to perform really well. So my guild's actually going to be starting to bring a second Warrior, maybe even a third.
Ooh, we've got 2 right now. I don't know if I would like to see a third one. I'd rather see another Boomy than a third Warrior, but that's just me.
Boomies aren't performing as well as you think in TOGC.
Yeah. Ferals looked really good.
Ferals look amazing. I don't know what you're talking about.
I rated with Airness, and Airness was top of the meter like every fight, and I was like, yo.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's like, what is going on?
Yeah, even with the nerf that we got.
Yeah, yeah, that was with the glyph
because
being in there. Yep.
because of the nerf. It's hurting us on single target, but on multi-target fights, it doesn't matter because we'd rather have that Omen of Clarity proc more than we'd rather have the extra damage from our rip,
Mm-hmm.
because chances are you're not putting up your rip 100% of the time, or even 80% of the time, like Sims say. So cleave is going to be king, and I can't wait for ICC to see all those cleave fights too.
Yeah, I will say on like was a noob. I thought that I was gonna be a little bit higher in the meters than I was because it's like, yo, Starfall, there's 4 ads, it's gonna be sick. But yeah, like I didn't really see myself up too high, and I was like, oh man.
Warriors, Ferals, DKs, and Rogues are going to be
Mm-hmm.
kings of that fight.
Yeah.
Kings. Because of our natural cleave. Well, Ferals don't have natural cleave. We actually have to press a button. But Warriors, it's natural in their rotation. Rogues, it's natural in their rotation. DKs, it's natural in their rotation. But Ferals are actually looking really good on a single target class that doesn't really do a lot of cleave, but we're killing it in cleave. Killing it.
Yeah.
I did see that they might cap both the Cabalds and the
Oh
ads
yeah, yeah.
on a noob. So once that's actually put out on their website, I'll do a video on stuff like that.
Nice. Panda, anything else to add?
No, nothing. Just getting harassed by my cat, as is usual.
Nice. Cool. Well, guys, I'm going to hop out of here. Thanks for hopping in for most of the show.
No
Appreciate
problem. Always appreciating to come and spread my channel awareness.
it. Nice.
It's fun.
Yeah, thanks, Panda. Thanks, Bearbus.
Later, go.
All right. To the solo cam. Barely cleave fights, boss fights, and ICC. I haven't even looked at ICC. I'm scared to look at ICC. But yo, thanks again, Bearbus and Panda, for coming in here. I have Bearbus's YouTube channel linked. I'm gonna link it again, even though it's only like 10 lines up there. For your Feral Phase 3 information, check out Bearbus. Hit that subscribe button. My dude's got, let me see, 42 subscribers. Even like 8 subs right now would be fucking huge. Get him to fucking 50 subs. Dude's putting out the information. I looked earlier. He's already got 2 extras. Nice. You guys are fucking sick. Yeah, I'm gonna wrap up the show here. About 2.5 hours, the normal show. I tried to get the show in there. If you're just joining recently and didn't hear the news at the top of the show, next week is the season finale, the last episode of Grif and Go. I don't know what else to say about it without being too Debbie Downer, but there's another, maybe not weekly, but another show that's going to be starting the week after. So next week is the 7th of June. The 14th of June should be, if everything goes as planned, should be the start of a new show. Could be once a month, once every other week, once a week. We'll see how that goes. But I feel like I need to say something else. Loot list meeting for our guild is tomorrow. I'll be figuring out what gear I'm interested in for phase 3, and I'll be trying to like work on that over the weekend so that hopefully I can put out a video soon about actual phase 3 stuff. I've been kind of putting it off. Like, is Blizzard going to change eye levels in TOC? Would they do something crazy like that? No one's asking for it, so that's a perfect time for Blizzard to be like, we're going to up the eye level of TOGC gear 6 eye levels. If they do that, you heard it here first. Yeah. But I think that's going to do it. That's going to be it. I'll see you next week. I have no idea what the show is going to look like next week. If it's going to be the normal 2.5 hour show, is it going to be an hour, 30 minutes? But Grif will be back next week. It's going to be me and him. I don't know if we're having guests. If you want to be a guest, reach out to Grif. I'm trying to put it in his hands. If he doesn't want to grab it by the reins and take control, then I'll do what I can. But thanks for hanging out. I'm looking forward to the new show. If you only watch this show, I'll see you next week. I think it's going to be on Grif's channel. Could be here. Who knows? I'll try to communicate stuff through Discord. If you watch any live streams of mine throughout the next week, I'll try to like bring up certain things, leak it if I can. Any info on that stuff. 10-mans. There could be a 10-man Friday. I don't think I have any raids tomorrow night. Next stream could be Thursday. Could be Friday. 2 days away. Friday. So thanks for hanging. Thanks so much for the support for the show, and I'll see you